Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And welcome to our Kickstarter. This is our 21st Kickstarter. 21. That's pretty cool, isn't it? If you've been around for the others, thank you so very much for your support. You know that we like making comic books and you know that we deliver, so thank you so very much. If you're new, let that number sink in. 21. That means we've done 20 other Kickstarters and we've fulfilled them, shipped them, everything. We like making comics. So I'm going to shut up talking and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you about it. We've got 5 comics in our Kickstarter this time. The first one I'm going to tell you about is Trumps. This one is Trumps number 4. It's the conclusion of our mini-series. All the armies are in place. The battle is about to begin. We've got the clubs and the diamonds. They're about to go to war. And then there's spades and there's hearts. Only one of them can be Trumps. Who's it going to be? You got to read the book to find out. Now, I'm going to let Barb Kalberg tell you about Divinity. Take it away, Barb.
Hi folks, this is Barb Kalberg, creator of Divinity. As most of you know, Divinity is a young girl with amazing healing abilities, and everybody would like to get their hands on her. In this issue, she has fallen into the hands of an unscrupulous foe. Her brother Zach is on the run, trying to keep his own self alive while finding a way to rescue Vinny. Thanks for watching, and thanks for reading.
Thanks, Barb. The other one I'm going to tell you about is Switchblade. This is another conclusion to a mini-series. This one's Switchblade number 3, and it concludes our mini-series of Switchblade. Again, the pieces are all in place. Is Scott Nathan, aka Switchblade, going to have the grand finale battle with this serial killer? I think he might. But are the cops going to get in the way? Don't know. You got to back the Kickstarter and find out so that you can read it. The next one is the new book by K-list writer Brent T. Larson. This one's called Cape Town. We've got a superhero theme going on this time. Did you not figure that out? Cape Town is another one. It's in the last days of superheroes. Are the superheroes all gone? Where have they been? Where do these superheroes come from? That's a mystery to be solved. And you've got to read Cape Town number 1 to find that out. And the final book I want to tell you about is The Pendulum. It's number 1 of one of our remix series. It's about an aging superhero who is looking back on his life. And he's like, man, what can I do? I've had a superhero life, but I've got so many regrets. But I'm an old dude now. What am I going to do? You got to back the Kickstarter to find out. Back it if you can. There's 5 comics. There's all kind of tier levels. We've got all kind of add-ons that you can include. Original art. There are back issues. There are T-shirts. Back where you can. And if you can't back, we get it. We're still in a depressed economy right now. But you can share it. Share it to all of your friends who like comic books and say, hey, look, these guys deliver. So we're asking you to come along on the ride with us. And until then, remember to make mine Silverline.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brent T. Larson.
Oh, that's too much. Oh, please.
We have a wonderful studio audience. They do whatever I tell them to. It's the best kind. Oh man. Okay, before we get to talking about this, I have to tell you, I read Kalis. And well, I've only read part of Kalis. I need to read the rest of Kalis. You got me hooked on that one.
You don't have to read it. No, I'm just
okay. Well, cool. That'll work out just fine. Get all the behind the scenes stuff on it. Yeah, it's so much like if Buck Rogers came back to Earth and everyone was like, "Where have you been for the last whatever?" A little bit of Starman, a little bit of Manifest. All kinds of stuff that I love watching here in this comic book. So,
yeah, thanks.
I mean, just that whole business of we think you're a homeless bum, but one word you said at the guard gate triggered all our computer systems.
Yeah,
so we think you're important now.
Yeah,
they have no idea who he is and have to figure it out. Folks, if you have not read Kalis from Silverline, go get it wherever you have to. Tell your retailer to order it offline or something. But tonight we're going to Cape Town, not South Africa.
Yes, well said.
I've read nothing about Cape Town because this is issue 1 on the campaign tonight.
That's right.
So Herman and Captain Finity, while you're here, pay attention. Click the link below because you're going to want to go out there and check this guy out. He can write some hell of some comics. How do you say that in plural? He's a hell of a comics writer. There, we'll go that way.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'd like to be. Yes, I'm not going to say that about myself. I want to be a hell of a comics writer. Yes.
Well, you're well on your way. You're in with an impressive crew. Every time I talk with the Silverline folk, like I talked with Barb last night, we did manage to talk a little bit about her comic and Roberta's comic, but we spent the majority of it talking process, doing the accounting work for a crowdfunded comic company, setting the right things on your coloring software to adjust things. But it was fascinating talk and.
They can make accounting fascinating. That actually sounds like some kind of merit badge just waiting to be invented. So
I agree. I absolutely agree. But so tell us about Cape Town, because I've got references in my head that make me immediately think of some of the other titles, and I want to find out what makes this one stand out apart from them.
Sure. Okay. Well, basically, Cape Town is the story of a guy, kind of a normal guy, except that he wants to be a superhero, and he just happens to live in a city where it's okay to do that. In fact, there were a lot of superheroes until about 3 years ago when suddenly they all disappeared. And now he has come onto the scene as a new superhero. His name is Recon. And he runs into another superhero named Seismic, and they hate each other, but they realize that they are on a common purpose, which is to find out why all the costume heroes suddenly disappeared. and it's a 4-issue series, and it just kind of travels with them, and you get to see kind of what their unique qualities are. They have backstory that's kind of fun. You might start out thinking each character is like someone that you've run into in Marvel or DC, but then each of them takes a complete detour, which I hope is totally unique. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love superhero stuff. I've loved them since I was a kid. And now I get to kind of invent my own without all of the baggage that all of the other superheroes that you all know and love and have on your pajamas all have.
Yeah. Well, actually, not pajamas, good sir. Not pajamas. They're on my socks.
Exactly. If you ever see Cape Town socks, then I will know I have arrived and will
You've
officially
made it.
retire. Yes.
So Cape Town is a place where it's okay to be a hero. Is there something? Are there no heroes in other towns in this universe?
No, basically, I tried to ground this story in mostly reality. And what I have found is I've gone to a lot of conventions, and just as a fan, really, there's such a great subculture based on cosplay. Just the idea that people love the idea of dressing up as something that would seem completely garish and completely weird anywhere else. But at a con, it makes complete sense, and people love you and they want their photos with you. And it got me thinking, what if you actually had a city, and the city in this case is Capernaum. It's the city of Capernaum. It's a city of my own design. So anyway, where you could actually do that without people thinking you were weird. And this also kind of fit into how it was for me when I was a kid, which was all the other kids wanted to be doctors and lawyers, and I wanted to be Batman, basically.
Yes.
And I thought, what if you never outgrew that, and then you find yourself living in a place where it's actually okay to be a career superhero? And then I just so it basically kind of has this culture in this city where there are established heroes that don't necessarily have powers, but they just like to go and do basically like Shakespeare in the park, only as a superhero. Until one of the supervillains actually creates a serum as kind of a joke, because that's what supervillains are supposed to do. But he releases it into the water, not knowing that it actually will work, and it actually causes some of the cosplay people to gain powers. And so you have a city with a lot of people who like to dress up in costume, and a few of them that actually have some low-level powers. And the ones with the powers get together and they develop a team, and they're doing all their comic booky stuff. And then one day it all just goes away, and nobody knows why, and they're all sad, and they start to move on. But what happens if you still want to be a superhero? Well, you do it, at least if you live in this town. And so that's kind of where my story begins, basically.
I love it. I was I won't say how old I was because there might be a statute of limitations. But I was a minor, and I remember looking at the we'd get the junk mail, the junk catalogs, and one of them was for the local junior college, and I'd be going through there and be circling, criminology, police work. That's like all the stuff I'm going to need to know. And the only thing I couldn't figure out was when someone was going to kill my parents, because I had to be an orphan to pull this off.
I actually talk about that a little bit, because it's funny how, a basic question that happens in comics. And like I said, I like to ground my stories a little bit in reality. Obviously, it's going to be fanciful if it's superheroes. But the question being, if you want to be a superhero, why don't you go into police work? But if you actually look at the temperature of the climate in America today, becoming a policeman, policewoman is not really something that's promoted very much. And
No.
if you're wanting to fight crime and you want to be in the police, you're going to take on a whole slew of things that you don't really want to do, like having a union rep and having people hate you on the street because you're doing your job, basically. And why wouldn't anyone want to be a superhero if they could avoid all of that and just punch out the criminals and leave? It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
kind of nice.
Take on the bad guys. Don't have to worry about domestic disturbance calls.
Yeah, yeah,
Crowd control. No, that's somebody else's job.
yeah, exactly. Who
Um,
wants to get into police work to do crowd control and
well,
question witnesses on the scene? Superheroes don't have to do that. They just drop in, punch the bad guys, leave, go get some frozen yogurt if they're up to it, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of a cool.
shawarma, I think, is what heroes eat
Yes,
now.
exactly. Yes.
This is something I've thought about before. And back when I was still writing short stories and trying to get published, before I got published, I was looking at science fiction. I was like, everything that we wrote about in science fiction 50 years prior to that day, this was like early 2000s, no, early mid 90s. It's like it's happened. Everything that we predicted in science fiction has happened. The only thing that we've got in these science fiction stories that hasn't happened is masked heroes. It's like, why hasn't this happened? Now, this was before Kick-Ass came along and did its thing. And I was like, so I wrote, a short story, The Secret Origin of Jerry. And it was a sad ending for Jerry, because he only could get what he could buy at the local army surplus store and pharmacy.
Okay.
Yeah. And he just he jumps off the A&P building to stop a gas station robber, cracks his ankle, gets shot, game over. It was a little bit more poetic than that. I mean, I think I had him, as his vision was going out and he sees the light and the shadows at the edge of it, he could see Superman and Batman. The purple healing ray will, bring him back. They're taking him to the satellite, and he sees, Marvel heroes around them. He's like, wait, what are they all doing together? And he realized, oh, cool, it's a crossover. And it was. And, he crossed over. That was my whole point. I was a young, florid writer at the time.
Hey, man, if you're young and you're a writer, then you're already on your way. So that's awesome. But that does bring up a good point, because something I really kind of felt I wanted to do in this series, you mentioned Kick-Ass. And, I look at stories like The Boys, and there is no shortage of deconstruction of superheroes right now. I mean, you can basically find anything you want. But one thing that really, I like those series, but one thing that's kind of annoyed me is the idea that if you're going to get powers, or even if you want to be a superhero, that automatically makes you bad and selfish and evil. And at best, you'll help people if it's convenient to you, and maybe not even then. That somewhat frustrates me, that view of the world, because I know there's plenty of people out there who make choices to help people selflessly. People ran into the Twin Towers when they were on fire to save people at the cost of their own lives. It's a real thing. So why couldn't we have a story about superheroes that don't have powers and yet genuinely want to help people? And so I kind of wrote this series as kind of a response to those deconstructionist superheroes suck people. So.
Yeah, somebody who actually wants to do it. I've always wondered. Well, I used to wonder. I don't now. When someone was actually going to do it, just put it on and do it. Mm-hmm. And I found out that they are. There's if you've looked around, and how much research are you going to do on a city about superheroes? Come on, what am I thinking? But if you ever go out and Google it, there's the real life superhero movement, and it's cataloging all these people in different cities around the country who are the superheroes. They're local superheroes. They mostly do community work. They go out and they talk with the homeless and stuff like that. They clean up the streets in costumes. But I got thinking, well, if they're doing that, how far away are we from, Iron Man, some guy who's actually got resources and ability. And then I thought, well, what if he's already doing it and he's just made sure he's good enough not to let people know that he's doing it? And that kind of scared me.
That's a great story in and of itself. Yeah, someone needs to write that story. So Iron Man loved the rocket red and his gold outfit. Well, what if it was black and he couldn't see it at night or something like that? Yeah, that sounds like a great story.
Captain Kennedy asked if this is taking place in a parallel universe. Well, they all are. They're all taking place in parallel universes. This isn't tied up with any of the other Silverline universes, though, right?
No, it's not.
Standalone.
Yeah. They bug me occasionally to think about how we would do a crossover, and
I
very
told him
likely
how.
it involves someone saying, "Oh, look at that! It's a rift in space," and then suddenly
Yeah.
you're all
Well,
together.
I told Roland how to do that. At the end of every book, they all turn the page like, "What the hell is that?" You turn the page,
Yeah,
there's
that's
a page
right.
that's a silver line. And you got it baked into the cake already, guys. Just run with it.
You know what? I'd do it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, it sounds like all kinds of fun because it doesn't have to impact anything. It goes into a one shot or a little mini series, and then everybody's back home. They don't even have to remember stuff. It's a thing, amnesia and like what just happened. I don't know, but I guess I better go home now. I'm going to bring the campaign up, which means I'm going to drop that overlay, and I'll just throw up a background of some sort. Just because people think the basic black background is boring. I like the starkness of it, actually. I think it makes everything else pop.
Yeah.
But then I like to wear black. So one thing about the Silverline campaigns that makes them stand out from everybody else's campaign is that y'all don't just do a book. You do a trip to the comic shop here.
Yeah. You get a variety, and man, I don't know how many books we have going on now, but they're all different from each other. So you got something for everybody in there. Like I do Kalis as well, like you mentioned earlier. Kalis is a fun science fiction book. It's not a superhero book. This is Cape Town's totally different. So yeah, and then you see from the rest, there's classic stuff, there's new stuff, there's fantasy stuff.
So. Here's what I find interesting too is that in this mix you've got two things that are almost ending, one thing that is ending, and something that's just beginning. So there's it's not like anybody could come in and say, okay, well, everything ends right here. I'll just get this campaign and then I'm done with Silverline for a while. Because no, you're geting hooked into the next cycle.
There is no escape.
Very devious and genius.
Yeah, Roland's been doing this a while.
So you've got this. There it is. It's 1 of 4. I'm trying to highlight it like it's text. It's an image. Figure this out, RJ. But how did you approach Roland with this idea? Because I know that the Kalis thing was Kalis. I believe is how you kind of broke into Silverline, right? You brought that story to him.
Yeah. Actually, Roland and I had become friends while he was still kicking around the idea of this latest iteration of Silverline, and we met through a mutual friend, and I was picking his brain about what it was like when he was an editor back in the 80s and 90s, and I knew all the creators he had worked with, and it was really fun. And then I said, hey, I have this idea for this comic book about a guy who comes back from space, and he said, I'll talk you through it. And then I wrote a script, and he helped me hire the 2 guys that I have doing the art, and they're amazing. And then he said, well, hey, this looks great. Do you want to do it with this new group I'm doing, Silverline? And I'm like, oh yeah. It beat my plan B, which was to drop it in a drawer and not do anything about it and just think whimsically about the future. But this was much better. So
not like you could take it to conventions and pass it around because comic publishers don't go there anymore.
That sounds like a great way to lose more money. So this was much better. And then Roland just said he had a couple of artists that he wanted to get started. And did I have any story ideas? And I said, well, I have this one about this superhero that lives in this town and these 2 guys, and they're trying to solve a mystery, and it's going to be like Spider-Man and Batman, except not at all. And it'll be really fun. And he pitched it to Justin, and Justin said, yeah, that sounds great. And so that was pretty much it. So yeah.
Like I said, it kind of reminds me of several different similar tropes, but not the same story at all. The Astro City obviously comes to mind.
Right.
It's big city heroes there.
Powers is another one that's coming.
Powers is another one. Yeah. Gail Simone did one called Serenity, which was like the retirement town for old superheroes.
Oh, I missed that one. I kind of wish I'd read that one.
Well, Gail Simone writes more humorous in a lot of stuff, and especially in this one. There was the old man walking around reading a dictionary because he'd gone senile, and he had a magic word that would transform him into Captain Outrageous or whatever, but he forgot the word. So he's reading the dictionary out loud
That's
in the hopes
great.
of stumbling across it. So every time you see him throughout the story, he's like in a different section of it, going forward and reading words. I don't know if he ever found the word or not. But,
Yeah. It's I will admit, probably people who have read Cape Town, it may call to mind some other series. And really, what my hope wasn't necessarily that their minds would be blown with something completely so new they'd wet their pants or something. It'd be more like, okay, like you're a writer, you know what this is like when you read something and you think that's cool, except I would have done this.
yeah,
That's kind of where this idea started to really germinate, was when I was thinking, I like the idea of Astro City, but what if they didn't have a lot of powers and everybody wanted to be a superhero? Oh, okay. And then I heard later that Powers actually had the idea of all the superheroes disappearing. And I read that series way back in the day. I can't remember actually what happened to them, so I'm not too afraid that they'll have that Bendis had the same idea I did. But at the same time, just the idea of, what happens when you have a bunch of people who have secret identities? The answer is they can kind of stop whenever they want, and you can't say a word about it.
Go back to living a normal life.
Yeah. So
with them having disappeared and everything, it kind of sounds like the far end of another series. Hello, let me close my printer drawer there. The far end of another series that's being crowdfunded right now called Tights, which is sort of like what you said. The town is accepting superheroes. Only here's like the town's not accepted them yet, but they're coming anyway. And it was a whole in his universe, it was kicked off by the fact that everyone's stuck home. There's a mandate to wear masks anyway. All you got to work from home. All you can do is watch Disney Plus with all the Marvel movies. So eventually people started putting on masks, and the police were like, "Oh God, we got another one."
That's not a bad idea. That's pretty good. Yeah, everyone can relate to that.
Well, I'm just kind of interested in how the town, and I know that's not part of this story because it's at the point where the heroes have disappeared. I'm just I'd be intrigued in seeing how that all would start up and how the town would say, "Oh, you want to be a hero? Cool, go for it, do it." I mean, what kind of a hippy dippy mayor do you got to have in charge of the police force to say, "Do what thou wilt, man"?
I actually I have a scene, you call it a scene in comics, where in this comic where a guy has written a book about the city, and he explains it very nicely for everybody with photos of how Capernaum had, it had a terrible history, no real sports teams, nothing really interesting about it. But they started noticing at the Halloween parade every year that people were dressing up like superheroes of their own design, and that they were starting to keep the costumes on after Halloween was over with. So the city was thinking, maybe the Chamber of Commerce has something to say about this. And they basically just started saying, well, hey, we think it's great. Tell your friends from out of town to come and see all the cool superheroes. And they started getting villains, and they started doing these crazy superhero fights, which was, totally made up, and people really got a kick out of it. And so they threw open the doors and said, please, if you want to be a superhero, come to our city. It's great.
There's a Batman that does that with a Joker, and I can't remember what town he's in. It's a California town.
Oh yeah.
But they'll stage an encounter and an arrest.
Just
have fun in front of people.
Yeah, exactly. And but as things go in human nature, if you do something cool and you pull it off, you're going to want to do it again, and you're going to do it a little bit bigger next time. And that's kind of where the city went until they all disappeared. Whew. And that was the end of it.
And therein is the mystery. Now when you say they disappeared, there's different ways I can take that. I mean, it's like, people actually disappeared, or people just stopped being heroes because they stopped being super. The formula wore off. Not, I'm spitballing in several different directions here. I don't know if there was like this mass, we have, our population dropped versus we don't see the heroes.
Well, I could totally answer that question.
But you've lost your internet connection and you can't.
And that is pretty much how it works. So
excellent. Way to take advantage of the roboting pause.
Did I cut out?
Yeah, just a little bit there. Gosh, we got 3 different covers on this one. You got a retro edition, which is interesting because this is not one of the older Silverline books that they're doing remix.
Right. Huh. It's retro and it's new. How do they pull that off?
Well, you'll have to see. They've got I think that's their old logo there.
You're right.
I like the new one much better. I tried to replicate that as best I could. When I told Roland, it's like, I think I finally got an overlay for Silverline interviews that I'm going to keep because it kind of sort of works for me now. Where did it go? There it is. It's not quite the same font, but I played with the lines a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty darn sharp, I say.
I have fun with PowerPoint. Too much fun. Now, a lot of these campaigns, in fact, maybe all of them, maybe I'm understating it, all the art was done traditionally. Is that the same for Cape Town as opposed to digitally?
Yeah. Justin, I believe, hand drew everything. And his wife, Justine, actually colored it. So they are husband and wife, pencil, ink, and color team. So
that being the case, I would imagine that many, if not all, of those pages are available in the original art tier as an add-on.
I imagine they would. I'm not actually 100% on that, but that'd be cool.
There are so many pages of original art here, folks, that they can't show them all. You have to click on this, and it takes you to another site that will take you through each and every. In fact, if I just click that, you might even recognize some of the panels. I know that's Divinity up there. There we go. That's a Cape Town cover.
It is. I think that was Dean, wasn't it?
It's hard for me to read.
Dean Zachary did that one, I believe. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there he is.
So folks, if you if you're an original art collector and you want to get something from a #1 issue, right there. How many people have the original art for a first issue of a series? Not even the first issue of like the third time around for the series, because they reboot these things all the time. This is the first time Cape Town has appeared anywhere in any form.
That's right. Out of my brain.
So it's a whole new thing. And you still got the t-shirts.
Yeah.
So you've got to be wearing Cape Town t-shirts to the conventions now, right? It's
you know what? I got a Kalis t-shirt. I have not gotten a Cape Town one. I am really behind the ball.
I'm sure you will be comped.
Yes.
Roland takes care of the team, I'm sure. I say that I give it to you for him, from him for him.
Well,
now he's committed.
I appreciate that.
So 4-issue arc, that's it's real easy to start those things up on Kickstarter and or Indiegogo, because like, hey, 4 issues done and the story's out. But is your story really done at 4 issues, or is just that arc done at 4 issues?
That's a great question. I'll answer it this way. It is a 4-issue arc. It will be done when the 4th issue is done. Will I ever do another series? I guess it depends on how Willison does. It will definitely be, the setup will be, the new status quo will be such that it would be easy to find a plethora of new stories. It's different with Kalis, which actually I have arcs, but the series won't actually end for several more issues. So
Yeah,
I have a
that's dead
definitive
and
ending to that, after which there will be no more Kalis stories. But
Kalis is going to make a great movie. I'm not. Notice I didn't say it would be a great movie. It is going to be a great movie. It's one I'm going to want to see.
Yes. And the car I'm going to buy with those proceeds is going to be amazing. Yes. So.
Just don't drive at 88 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So you've got the taste of writing comics with Kalis, and you didn't want to quit, so you came up with Cape Town. You got anything on the back burner for when be prepared for when these are done?
I have a few, actually, and I would love to see them get published. I haven't actually talked with Roland recently about that. I know their Silverline has a lot more projects in the hopper. I doubt if there's room for any more. We're kickstarting 5 books at a time. That is pretty. That's a pretty hefty, pretty impressive slate of work right there. So, but I do have a couple of ideas, definitely in mind in case a spot gets opened up, and yeah, they'll be a lot of fun when I roll them out. I'm kind of in the place where I've written the first couple of issues. But I've also benched them a little bit, which is actually a pretty good thing to do when you're a writer, because it gives you some time to go back later and think, I thought this was a 10 and it barely is a 4, but I can fix that. So.
Yeah, you can always fix it.
Yeah.
A lot of different tiers in here, and the basic of each one is you can just get the one book that you're interested in. But it's going to be very tempting to go down and find the tiers where you can just get them all, because guess what? It's going to be cheaper to get all of them than to get them individually. It's just the way the shipping works. And now, of course, it's going to be way down here, apparently. just trust me, it's there. Roland's got a bunch of things in here where you can get like all the Divinity so far and all the Pendulum so far.
Yeah, we'll have back issues for everything. Cape Town doesn't have any back issues, so
not yet.
Come in fresh.
So, how closely did you work with the artist on this? And when I say that, I mean, how closely did he realize what was in your head when you saw it on paper?
Justin and I were basically, I wrote a script and he took it away and he did some great work. There's some panels there. In fact, that one to the right of the logo there in the middle of the screen is a great fight scene. And it was really fun to see someone basically take something as static as words and put them with motion lines in a way that I was like, oh, wow, this is even better than I imagined. So, yeah, he did a great job, and the colors really pop. And as we're going forward with the series, we're kind of retooling the way that I write for his art, which actually is kind of exciting. It's kind of new ground for me, and it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So, if there is a second issue, if we can get there, which I feel really good that there is. So
I think so. I think there'd be third, fourth. Get this one done all the way through.
Yeah.
It is interesting and thrilling in a way to have an image in your head, a character in your head, and then see somebody actually make that image appear on paper.
Yeah.
Long time ago, I submitted a comic story to a guy who wanted to be a publisher, and found an artist who showed off his Marvel tryout pages, which were fabulous. He did the full workup on the character lineup. I wish I still had that. It was in digital, and it was on a 3.5-inch floppy.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that dates it. And I was like, oh my God, this is the entire Hero Club right here. And then the artist and the publisher got into a debate about how business works. The artist had the impression that money was involved.
Okay. Yeah, you want to know that breaking into comics involves making sure everyone's on the same page with that from the get-go. Yes.
Yeah, and the publisher was like, money? And the publisher then, or rather the would-be publisher remained a would-be publisher.
Okay. Yeah, I will say writing for comics is a ton of fun. I'm not doing it to get rich or break into any kind of high-paying field.
I was going to say you probably still at the day job still.
Yeah, and I like my day job, so it works.
Yeah,
But
you're not at that tremendous level of money. I mean, I've heard from reliable sources whom I trust. We're talking four-figure page rates.
Oh wow. Well, I don't know.
That was 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, and then COVID came, and those 4 figures dropped.
Yeah,
just
I was like 4 figures for a page. That's like he buys a car with an issue of a comic. Good Lord.
Yeah, I don't know anyone like that, but I don't know a lot of people, so.
I'll never be that person. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think people who want to get into the business thinking that is the end result need, reality is your friend. If you're doing it because you love it and then you get paid and it blows your mind, that's probably the sweet spot. If you get in trying to make money and then you realize you're maybe possibly spending more money than you're bringing in, well, if you still love it, then maybe that's got to be good enough for a while. So
yeah, do your coworkers at the day job know you write comics?
They do. I work with a missionary group. We make short films, and I get to write narrative short films, and it's a lot of fun. And they know, they're very supportive, and yeah, it's great. It's a great place to use your creativity and just come up with new ideas and stuff. And I think probably imagine a lot of that bled into this idea that, I love comics. I've loved them since I was a kid. I literally cannot remember reading anything before I started reading Peanuts comic strips. And so when I was like, I think there might be a way I could actually make a go of this and actually try it. And
obviously people were doing it. That's what you were reading.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but there's a mystique that goes with that goes along with being the published writer that published writers get over real quick.
Yeah.
I was at one of my day jobs in the past year, and I'd had 2 books published by that point. And I had them on my desk, because they're always like, my books are with me.
Yeah.
Like my children. And somebody said, "Oh, what are these?" And I'm like, "Oh, those are my books that I wrote." And they looked at me like, "You wrote these?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Why are you here?" "Well, Stephen King's contract means that he gets the largest chunk of all the publication money, and then they have to divvy it up among the rest of us. So, it's not that much left."
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that, when I'm at a convention and people look at me like, "Wow, you've made your own comic. You've arrived, dude." And then, I'm going out to get my free lunch and I'm just like, "Where's my voucher? Where's my voucher? Do I have enough to get a Coke on top of that? Maybe water will do today."
Would you take a comic? I'll sign it.
Maybe 5. Yeah, give them to your friends. Yeah. So, yeah, I published my first short story. And I was like, "Yeah, look at me go." And I didn't sell another one for 2 months or 2 years rather. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if if I have hit the sweet spot where I can now coast, I'm not there yet. I don't see it happening anytime soon. So,
well, you're part of a machine now. And that's that's a big step.
Yeah. Well, I can't complain. That's for sure.
It's not like this is your Kickstarter. This is Brent's Kickstarter, and you're paying the artist, and you're paying the shipping, and you're paying the printing.
Mm.
But trust me, that's a huge load off your shoulders right there.
Oh yeah, I have absolutely no reason to complain. It has been so much fun. It is so cool to, I mean, I remember as a kid thinking, I think I could come up with new stories and new ideas, but who do I call? There's this mystique or this fantasy of I'm going to write a great script and send it to Marvel, and then I get a call 2 weeks later. Holy cow, we want your work. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I don't know if it ever worked like that. And if it did, those days are gone forever. So,
I was 11 years old when I did that.
yeah,
Sent it to
exactly.
Marvel and DC because it was back when they were doing the Marvel DC crossovers, and
Oh, yeah.
I wrote them both in pencil on lined paper, in a short envelope. So I had to fold the thing over and put a stamp on it, and it
Mm,
was all It's hey, the reason that Krypton exploded was because Galactus landed on the other side of the planet and nobody knew he was there, and he made the core go boom, and Superman finds out and he's all mad, and Fantastic Four, they got to stop him because Bob, and it just went on, and
mm,
nothing from Marvel, of course. Dick Giordano sent me a letter back,
hmm,
encouraging me to continue writing, and he wrote it on DC stationery, which I kept forever,
hmm.
which was really cool at the time because it was like it was printed on the back of the letter in
Mhm.
reverse, so it was like a watermark when you held it up to the light, and it
Oh,
was just
wow.
Superman with Batman on his shoulders and Wonder Woman on his shoulders and Robin on her shoulders and him holding the DC globe at the top. It was like,
Okay.
that was better than a letter from the president. Dick Giordano sent
Yeah.
me.
And here you are today. I mean,
Here I am
there's so many
today.
people who I've run into so many people who feel like what they need is to be discovered, but they haven't written anything to be discovered by. So like someone will offer to pay them to write or draw for them. But that's not the way it works in the real world. You just got to start writing for yourself or
Yeah.
drawing for yourself. And then one day someone says, "Hey, what you working on?" And then you show them and they're like, "Oh, wow, that sounds really cool. Oh, have you ever thought about publishing?" Well, I was thinking about publishing. Maybe I'll publish something of yours. It's, you're just going to have to be ready.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, there's really no other way around it. So you just got to kind of do your
The only way
stuff.
to do it is to do it.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you hear people say I'm waiting for inspiration. One of the giants that I follow after, Warren Murphy, did the Remo Williams Destroyer books,
Oh, okay.
and that's why I know him, because I've written some of those for his company. He used to teach in his classes, if you're waiting for inspiration, you're not a writer, you're a waiter.
Mm,
And that's the job you'll probably get.
yeah.
You can just deliver plates and tell people you're a writer, and never have something. But
Mm. It is a tough road.
it's it's a learn by doing thing. It's
Yeah.
I'm told the same thing by artists. I have a friend who used to do design work for a grocery store company. He did a coloring book for Disney.
Hmm.
He's done professional stuff, and his job at that time just happened to be in the marketing department, drawing the cartoon characters for cereal boxes and such, and advertisements. And he said, anybody can do what I do, and I'm looking at him like, you just keep saying that, buddy. It's a skill set. You just start at the beginning and you draw circles and squares, and then you do this and you learn how to do it. I'm like, I keep drawing Cynical Man, and not even very well. So, all right, Brent, I don't know what more to ask about Cape Town that I haven't. If there's something I've missed on here that you want to make sure people are aware of, now's a good time to bring that in.
I think we covered it pretty well. I would just say the art, I think, is really fun. And I remember back in the day, people saying, don't do a superhero book, because the people only care about Spider-Man and Batman and Superman, etc. But I will say, as I talk to more people my age and maybe a little younger, I'm discovering that people are starting to want something new. They like the idea of superheroes, but they already know everything there is to know about Spider-Man. And
Yeah.
Spider-Man gets into these cool adventures, and some of them are new and they feel fresh, and that's all good. But he's still essentially the same person. Same with Batman, same with all of them. So I feel like if we were going to want to try a superhero story that was all new, that had a completely different dynamic going forward, then this would be the time to do it, because people love superheroes, but they also love mature storytelling. I don't mean like adults only in the X-rated
Oh yeah,
version. I mean more just like with
I mean, I
depth.
like that too, but it's
But I mean things that are thematically interesting and reflect the world we live in. And I really tried to capture that in Cape Town, and I hope people see that.
yeah.
So,
Well, we've loved superheroes for thousands of years. It's not just a recent movie genre that's cropped up here.
yeah,
Everything from Hercules and Gilgamesh, and Samson, Paul Bunyan. We invent these superpowered characters all the time, and we tell stories about them because it's fun, it's enjoyable. And
yeah.
now we're just at the Superman level.
Exactly. And not only that, but I've noticed a strange phenomena in the last 20 or so years in comics, and that is people are starting to actually not just be like, oh, wow, I love when they had this superhero smackdown because Wolverine fought Spider-Man and we always wondered who was better. Okay, that was one thing. But you're also starting to hear people say things like, so why can't Captain America and Iron Man get along? I mean, what is it about their relationship that just makes them get mad at each other all the time? And they're asking because they're looking at these people like they're real people. Like they're
Yeah,
not just two-dimensional characters, and one of them carries a shield and can throw it really cool, like, and the other one's got rays that come out of his hand. Isn't that cool? It's that they're real people, and they want to know how these real people tick with, at the same time, having these crazy powers and this crazy responsibility to go out and save the world. And I think that's really compelling. And I think a lot of people sense that, and they really want to kind of just read these stories as a way to kind of look at their own lives and look at the culture that we live in. And I don't know, the whole thing is really compelling to me. So
yeah. It's not so much even that we see them as real people. I mean, beyond that, we see them as real people with whom we have a personal relationship, because we've been following these adventures for years, and that's why fans get so angry and up in arms when the company takes their property and makes a radical change to it. It's like, well, Marvel owns Captain America. We can make anybody we want to be in the suit. And then we feel like, but you're taking him from us, even though he was never really ours to begin with.
Mhm.
There's it's a weird tug of war that's been taking place with a lot of characters lately, as mantles get passed and histories get rewritten.
Yeah, it's kind of I mean, pop culture is getting huger and huger, and with it, like you said, our sense of ownership of it, and it's a really interesting time to be alive if you're really into pop culture. That's for sure. So
It is. Thomas says, Kalis and the new Cape Town are very cool books. Yeah, they very much are, Thomas. And looking forward to having you on the show tomorrow night with Roland and the rest of the crew. I've got to make that thumbnail tonight.
yeah, and thanks, Tommy. Always appreciated. Tommy's awesome.
And I'll point out that Silverline, by the way, has their own podcast channel. And you guys are simulcast, or maybe you're part of, this is where you broadcast now, you're with part of the Madness Comics Network, simulcasting over there, joining up with Pops. We are also, partners with Pops on a lot of things. We're not simulcasting there tonight. We simulcast Mondays and Thursdays, I think. I never keep the days right. Other people got the other nights. We got bumped.
Yeah.
we got bumped by people who got more numbers, I think.
When will they learn?
Anyway, Brent, thank you so much for coming on tonight and bringing Cape Town to us. This sounds like a really cool book. It's going on my to-read list, which means it's going to join Kalis and all my other stack of Silverline books. Because make mine Silverline. That's the mantra.
Yeah, I'm not at home. I'd be wearing mine too.
I told Roland I was just at a convention last month. I said, hey, I ran into a guy named Mitch Faust who, heard about my fulfillment agent services through a panel we were on. And we walked out. He's like, so if you fulfill comics, I got a guy in Florida you might want to talk to. You ever heard of Roland? Man, I just turned my back to him because I was wearing my leather, my jean jacket. And there's the big old Silverline patch on my right shoulder. Like, never mind. You know him. So you guys are making a name around the country here. I predict only good things for Silverline in the future, and I'm glad to see that you're going to be part of it.
Thanks, RJ. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, too. I love talking about this stuff.
Me too. I could talk about it, all night long, but I need something to drink to lubricate those thoughts a little bit more, and I don't have it tonight. So everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We don't have a show without you watching. We're just a podcast falling in the woods. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.